Just imagine getting a return of 45.86% on your funds. I did not say 5.86, I said 45.86%. Last year, as your funds lied idle in the bank, someone somewhere got a return of 45.86%. And mind you, they did not start a business, they did not start forex trading, neither did they join a pyramid scheme that we can say if it has not collapsed, it will soon collapse. So this is the kind of conversation that we are going to have on this video. So hold up, listen up to the end of this conversation so that you can be that individual who gets to get a better return this year. In case you are coming across this channel for the first time, this is Finance Focus with Andrew, and we limit our conversation to avenues that help us improve our financial literacy, which is key when it comes to managing your personal finances. So subscribe, turn on the notification button so that you don't get to miss any of our conversation. Let's jump into what we are going to discuss in this video, and that is the Kuza Special Fund. Kuza Momentum Special Fund is one of the few special funds in Kenya, and it is the fund that gave that kind of return, that is 45.86% in the year 2024. So let's get to see the facts of the fund so that we determine whether it is a good place to dive in, how they are faring this year, and whether it is worth the risk. So, and remember, whatever information that I give on this platform, it is not a financial advice. This is just information that I get, the facts that I get about the facts that we get to discuss. But what you do with this information, it's up to you. For financial advice, we can always engage on other platforms. So here we just give information, but don't consider it as financial advice. So let's dive in and see what is there for us in Kuza Momentum Special Fund. So to start with, Kuza Momentum Special Fund is a case-denominated special fund. So you invest your money in Kenya shillings. We have seen other special funds that have USD and Kenya shillings. So Kuza Momentum Special Fund is case denominated. So all your investments in Kuza Momentum Special Funds will be denominated in Kenya shillings. The minimum amount that you need to get into Kuza Momentum Special Funds is 100,000, and any other top up that you need to do must be 50,000 and above. This is a fund that is, or rather, it is a product by Kuza Asset Management. So that is the fund manager. So Kuza Asset Management is the fund manager for Kuza Momentum Special Fund. This fund was incepted in December 2022. Right now we are on the 11th of May 2025. So it is a product that have been there for, let's say, 2 years, because that is 2023 and 2024, and now we are almost in the middle of 2025. So 2.5 years. They have been in the market for 2.5 years. So Kuza Asset Management, Kuza Momentum Special Fund has a benchmark return of 12%. And it is important to note that it is an absolute benchmark of 12%. So what does this absolute benchmark return of 12% mean? So it means that this is the target return they have for their investors. So 12% per annum is the kind of return they aim to give their investors. So it is a benchmark. It is what that they get to rate themselves with. If they deliver a 10%, they will have delivered 2% less than their benchmark return. If they surpass that 12%, they will have done better than their target. Now, so get to know that 12% is their benchmark return, but it is just a benchmark, not a guaranteed return. Don't confuse between the two. They can do below 12%, and they can do below, and they can do above 12%. So 12% is just a benchmark, a target that they have placed themselves. That is the kind of return they want to give their investors, but they don't always guarantee that they will always give that return. So their annual management fees is 2%, and management fees is that percentage that is held by the fund manager, of course, as a service charge. You know, Kuza Asset Management is not a charitable organization. These are people in business. So they need to get something from the tedious work of investing your funds. So what they get to retain is 2%, but the 12% that they target is net of the management fee. Then they have a lock-in period of 6 months. So when you are placing your funds there, you need to commit them for the next 6 months. So the kind of fund that you get to commit in this fund, it is funds that you are not sure that it is funds that you are sure you will not need it for the next 6 months or so. But of course, the longer the period, the better. The trustee is Scope Bank, and the custodian is KCB for the funds. And they are quite important when it comes to protecting your funds. It is also good to know that Kuza Momentum Fund is regulated by the Capital Market Authority. That is the regulator for this kind of funds. So when it comes to regulation, it is good to know that is regulated by the Capital Market Authority, which is one of the first things that you should check whenever you think about investing in any given fund. Now, let's move to risk. And this whole you can get this whole information from their April 2025 fact sheet. So in terms of risk, risk is rated between 1 to 5, where 1 being the minimum and 5 being the maximum risk. So Kuza Momentum Special Funds on the April 2025 scorecard or fact sheet was given a 3, that is moderate. So it is good to note that we are no longer talking about a minimum risk, a low risk investment, but rather we have moved a step further to talk about moderate risk. And moderate risk means that when you are diving in there, you should be prepared that anything can happen. They can give a negative return. They can give the benchmark that they have set for themselves. They can give a 20%. They can give a 30%. But getting into moderate risk, it means that you have some appetite for risk. You are not that person who is so much conservative when it comes to risk. Getting into moderate risk avenues, it means that at least you have an appetite for risk. So in terms of asset allocation, as at April 2025, the assets were allocated in cash and bank deposit, government securities, corporate debts, and quoted securities and other securities. That is information that you can get direct into from their fact sheets that are readily available online. Now, the key part that I want us to check on is on their performance, because that is where it gets interesting. So when it comes to performance, I want us to check and see the trend of the fund. Because we said that last year, that is 2024, we were able to deliver a 45.86%, which is quite commendable. But is there a probability of them achieving this kind of performance again, or was it just a mere luck? So the information that they gave in their 2024 fact sheet, they had given the 2024 performance, the second quarter 2024 performance, the year-to-date performance and April 2025 performance. So, one thing that you should know, and it is always a disclaimer for all funds and investment, as long as it is not a fixed income security. And when we talk about fixed income security, we are talking about things like bonds. You know, when you purchase a bond and the coupon rate is 14%, even if that bond runs for 20 years, the coupon rate remains to be the same, 14%. But when it comes to these funds, returns get to vary. And one of the disclaimer that is given, and it should even be in your mind, it is that past performance is not a guarantee of future performance. Simply because we performed last year does not mean that we will perform in 2025. We can do a 45% in 2024 and give you a 10% in 2025. So, as far as they gave an attracting interest rate in 2024, it is not a guarantee that they will do the same in 2025. And since we say that numbers don't lie, let's get to look just a little bit into their figures on what they are doing this year, and we try to figure out the probability of them attaining a 45.86% this year. Now, they say that in April 2025, let me educate something or elaborate something small, especially for those people that are not in the corporate sector. Now, Kuza Momentum Special Fund, they have an absolute benchmark return of 12%. We don't have to wait until the end of the year to know how the fund is performing, to know whether we can be able to achieve this benchmark return of 12%. There is something that we call, I think it is called proration, if I'm not wrong. Like, this target can be broken down even to a daily. So, if we are to do 12% by the end of the year, we can break it down and get to see what we are supposed to do by the end of, even by the end of each day, by the end of each week, by the end of each month, by the end of each quarter. So, with a 12% annual target, so the monthly target should be 12% divided by 12 because we have 12 months in 1 year. So, in any given month, we are supposed to do a 1%. So, Kuza Momentum Special Fund is supposed to give a 1% in every month. So, if they are able to give a 1% in every month, it means that they will have given a 12% by the end of the year. But from their fact sheet, April 2025, for the month of April, they did 0.01%, but they were supposed to do 1%. So this is not so pleasing, because if we were to go by this rate, 0.01%, if we get to see what they'll be able to do annually, it means that 0.01 times 12. So if we multiply this by 12, we only get a 0.12%, which is not quite sitting well. But again, they had also given their performance of year to date. So that is from January to the end of April. And they had given a 2.38%. Giving a 2.38%, what percentage were they supposed to have given by the end of April? So, January to April, we have 4 months. So, if we get to divide by, so 12 divided by 4, you see that we have three kind of groupings because that is not a quarter, it is slightly more than a quarter. So if we take our 12% and we get to divide by, say, 3, we get a 4. So between year to date, they were supposed to have given us a 4%. That is, for them to give a 12% by the end of the year, they were supposed to have given a 4%, between January to April 2025. So, but they had given 2.38%. So, going by this rate, 2.38%, if we get to multiply that by 3, it means that they are likely to close the year at 7.14%. Because if between January and end of April 2025, they had given 2.38%, if they continue with the same performance, that is holding all factors constant, and they continue with the same performance, 2.38% translates to a 7.14% per annum. So this makes the performance of this fund quite interesting. And these are my personal views, because a 45.8% in 2024 to a 0.01% in April 2025, that variance is so much. So my opinion is, don't get into this fund if you are conservative when it comes to matters risk. So when you decide to get into this fund, you should be a person that should be able to handle these kind of changes. You get there because they had a 45.86%, then they deliver to you a 7.14%. Will you be able to handle that kind of change? So don't get into it because of the enticement that is given by the 45.86% that delivered last year, because the kind of performance they are giving is not quite the same as they did last year. But again, let's see, in their 2025 April fact sheet, they had given their performance for the second quarter of 2024. And when you get to think about it, I think it was deliberate to show you that we have made changes before and literally we can do something. Because they say that for the second half of 2024, they gave a 14.14%, and 14.41% for half year. It means that we could expect them annually to give a 28.82%. So with the 14, I want us to get something here. They say the second half of 2024, they gave a 14.41%. If we were to annualize that, that would come to 28.82%. But in the actual returns, annually they give a 45.86%. So I think it is just an indicator they are trying to show that they have the power to change the figures. So they are trying to show us that even if they have given us a 2.38% between January and April, things can change. Even if they gave us a 0.01% for the month of April, they have turned tables before, and they can be able to turn tables. But the reason that you get from that is that don't get into this fund, and that is my personal opinion. If you cannot be able to handle such changes in interest rate, these are guys who will give a 45 in this month and they give a negative return in the previous month. Will your risk appetite be able to handle that? So that is where their performance is quite interesting. So as you get to 8, be prepared mentally. So if you are that person who has a high risk appetite, go to them. But if you are that person who is conservative when it comes to risk, I don't think this is your best fund. Continue searching. This is not your best fund. But again, in their fact sheet, they had tried to explain the kind of their target audience, people that they get to target, and you get to realize it is those people who want to get a long-term growth, a long-term capital growth, because we see that their performance is quite varying. You can get them for the 6 months that they are not doing well, so you don't get to realize any growth. So they are majorly targeting people who are in search of a long-term capital growth. They say that those people who are willing to fix their money for between 3 to 5 years. So I think for the 3 to 5 years, they will be able to redeem their performance, and the average return will be positive, and it will be a good figure. So don't get to them with a short-term target in mind. They also want to embrace those investors who want to achieve returns from equity and fixed income securities at the same time. So that is it for the Kuza Asset Management Fund. As I said, this is just for information purposes. I have given my opinions in terms of their performance. Then the decision whether to invest or not, it lies to you. Otherwise, see you in the next video as we get to analyze more and more avenues and more funds. You can, if you have any question, feel free to leave it on the comment section. You can be sure that we'll be able to address that. See you in the next video.